This is Jeremy Phillips from findingyourchurch.com, and I want to talk about sermon podcast plugins. And I saw a video a while back talking about the Nucleus sermon engine option, and kind of one of the reasons that I'm making this video is one of the statements that was made was that Nucleus was basically the only sermon engine option that could do what Nucleus does. And I have no problem with Nucleus. I think what they're doing over there with the Nucleus websites and the one site or page, landing page for everything that a church does is great. And I think it works really well. And I have no problem with it, other than it's not the only option to do what Nucleus does for sermon podcasts. That there is another option, and I have been using this option. I've been telling other people about this option, and it does work great, and it's not a monthly subscription. And so basically Nucleus, the purpose behind it is to create a one-page place or a landing area for every next step that your church does and that you want people in your church to do. And again, that's great, and I actually do that on my church website, and I'll show you that. And they have called it the 411 for a long time. And so basically I just put every single thing that I want people to do on one page. And so I put all the announcements, and I put the events calendar, our groups, serving, the podcast, our blog, and everything just on one page. So instead of sending people to the front page, I send people to the 411 page. And so I always just say, to sign up or whatever we're telling people to do, I tell them to go to journeykc.com/the411 instead of just journeykc.com. Journeykc.com is basically the landing page for everybody, anybody in the community who could come to that, and that would make sense for them. But for all next steps, I send them to this specific page. And so that's basically what Nucleus does. It does it in a different way. It creates cards that people can click on, but it all shows up on one page. And I think that's great. I have no problem with that. I just know that I can do that with a WordPress site. And the theme that I use, it just takes a little more effort. And so if you want to do that and have a monthly thing where you can connect to Nucleus, and it really is a good option for that. But they also included the sermon engine, and again, it works really well. I'm sure everything looks great. Their reasoning for why you want to use sermon engine is the custom playlists, the instant podcasting, add all of your sermons to your church website instead of hosting them somewhere else. I agree with all those things. That's phenomenal. Search engine boost, you have them all there. Again, that's true. Complete archive, downloadable resources. But the only thing that kind of, that I didn't necessarily agree with it is that that's the only way that you can do what they're doing. I do agree that, right here, I mean, it looks very clean. It looks awesome. And again, if that's the way that you want to do it, especially if you want to use Nucleus, I would go with that. I wouldn't do something different if you're already going to use Nucleus for everything else. But if you use WordPress, and I've used WordPress for a long time, and it is a little bit harder to use than Nucleus is, a lot harder probably, but it's not so challenging that you can't figure it out, especially with a little bit of guidance. But this plugin is another option that you can use that's just plugs right into your WordPress site. There's no monthly fee. There's no monthly charge. It does have a cost to it, but again, it's a one-time cost and you're done. And so you can kind of compare that, this is how Nucleus looks in at least one configuration. There may be more ways to configure it. And then this podcast plugin looks very similar to this. And there are different options, but it is mobile responsive. You can see, this is what it would look like on a desktop, then mobile, and you can switch back and forth between audio and video, just like Nucleus, you can include sermon downloadable resources. Just like Nucleus, you have the huge archive. You can browse by speaker, browse by series, and you can also take like one series and put it somewhere else on your website, or one sermon. So you can get a short code to do that. And so just like on my 411 page, I actually put the entire thing here. So like my main podcast page is here, and I can browse by the series, the speakers, and I have my YouTube video here. I can put tags. I can, people can share it online. They can watch or listen, and if I click to listen, it just has the series graphic, and so you can do that. It can create podcasts, multiple podcasts. So if you wanted to have a youth podcast and an adult podcast, or whatever you wanted to divide that up as, it's very, very simple to create podcast links or podcast feeds that you could submit to iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play and whatever you want to do. And so this is an amazing option if you have a WordPress site, and it's very easy to install. And so if you want to check this out and you're like, hey, if you want Nucleus, go for Nucleus, go for the sermon engine. I have no problem with that. It's a great option. But if you have WordPress already and you just want to add the podcasting functionality and get all of your sermons, off of some other podcasting site and onto your WordPress site, this is a great option. And so you can go to findingyourchurch.com/sermon podcast. And the reason I send you here is, number one, yes, this is an affiliate link, and at no cost to you. It does provide me with a commission, and if you have a problem with that, go find it on your own or whatever. It's no problem. But what I've put on here with this, and again, it's a very simple page, but what I've put on there connected to this is I've made videos showing you how to install it, how to embed sermons on any website or on your website or any page or post, how to set up and configure options for the podcast and the plugin. And so I've kind of taken a little bit of the mystery out of it about how to get it set up and how to get it started, and even I believe where to host your podcast files. You don't want to host them on your website hosting. That can cause all kinds of problems with the web hosts not being happy with you, and they actually shut my site down one time because I had all my podcast files hosted on my website hosting, and they didn't like that because they said that I was taking too much bandwidth. And so I moved them over to Amazon S3, and that's worked a lot better. But this is a great option if you don't want to go with Nucleus and you already have a WordPress site, or you're thinking of creating a WordPress site. Go to findingyourchurch.com/sermon podcast and check out this option.